There are spiritual signs that cannot be ignored, especially when they're trying to show you that you were never an ordinary person. This video will reveal 5 of those signs, and if at least 2 of them make sense to you, you might be living as a chosen one without even knowing it. A calling doesn't announce itself with words. It reveals itself through blockages, repetitions, deep exhaustion, and experiences that no one around you seems to understand. Throughout history, the chosen have been persecuted, tested, and misunderstood, not because they were special in the eyes of the world, but because they carried something the world didn't yet know how to handle. The process always begins with isolation, strangeness, and a series of events that feel unfair. But all of this, according to spiritual records and mystical accounts, is part of a silent preparation for a greater purpose. Maybe you thought some of your pain was just part of life, that certain physical, emotional, or spiritual blockages were coincidences. But what if they were signs? What if the struggle to move forward, the heavy feeling in your legs, the recurring dreams, or the repetitive cycles were all pointing you towards something greater? The choice may not have come from you, but the response, yes, and recognizing the signs is the first step to changing everything. If this video brings you clarity, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who feels they carry a purpose they don't yet understand. And write in the comments, "I accept the calling even without understanding everything." That phrase is more than a response. It's a permission. This isn't generic mystical content. The signs you'll see here weren't made up. They are recognized in ancient religious texts, age-old spiritual traditions, and in thousands of personal accounts from people around the world who have gone through the same process. And they all had one thing in common. For a long time, they thought they were just broken. But in reality, they were being shaped. Before a chosen one knows who they are, they live a strange life. Nothing flows the way it does for others. Transition phases are intense. Relationships are different. The body begins to react in odd ways, and the mind seems to fight against the world around it. Nothing feels definitive. Nothing feels stable. It's as if life is constantly being torn down, and that's exactly what usually happens before awakening. If you feel like you carry something you can't explain, that the world around you doesn't seem to fully understand you, that your journey has been different from most, maybe this video will show you that none of it was ever a mistake. It was preparation. A silent preparation for a calling that doesn't come with words, but with signs. They aren't obvious signs. They manifest in the body, in thoughts, in dreams, in relationships. Sometimes they show up as extreme fatigue. Other times as a constant sense that you're not in the right place. And yes, even physical symptoms like blockages, weakness in the legs, or inexplicable spiritual sensations can be among them. The challenge is knowing how to recognize them. And that's what you're going to learn here. So pay close attention to each of the signs. Reflect honestly. If, throughout the video, you realize that 2 or more are repeating in your life, don't ignore them. You might be living as a chosen one, without ever having been given the name. But now, finally, you can begin to see the truth behind your own story. From this moment on, you'll start recognizing the signs. But not with your eyes, with your memory, because many of them you've already lived, already felt, already ignored. The first one is so common that, precisely because of that, almost no one takes it seriously. Constant feeling of not belonging. It doesn't matter the place, the stage of life, or the people around on some level. You've always felt like you were in the wrong place, even when everything seemed right. It's not about self-esteem or shyness. It's deeper than that. It's as if there's a silent disconnection between you and the world. You can even socialize, smile, take part. But inside, something reminds you that you're on a different rhythm, in a different time, in a different kind of reality. And that feeling doesn't go away. It just adapts, but it never disappears. And no matter how much you try to convince yourself it's all in your head, it's still there. This sign is common among those who were set apart from an early age. They grow up feeling different, questioning everything, noticing more than others. Ordinary conversations are tiring. Noisy environments are uncomfortable. Shallow relationships are boring. And this isn't spiritual arrogance, it's a more sensitive perception of reality. The chosen one carries this sense of not belonging because, in truth, they weren't made to blend in with the world, but to provoke change. In many religious traditions, this is the first test, being placed in the world, but not getting lost in it, feeling alone, even when surrounded by people, seeking answers, even when no one is asking any questions. That constant discomfort is in fact a kind of compass, an initial mark. You don't know what it is yet, but you already feel that something is different about your path. This isn't madness, it's one of the oldest signs of the calling. And no matter how much the world tries to shape you, you never quite fit. You adapt, but you don't belong. And the more you try to force that fit, the more tired, drained, and frustrated you feel. That's not failure, it's spiritual resistance. A sign that your energy was made for a specific path, and everything else will feel strange while you try to live outside of it. If you live or have lived this feeling repeatedly, with growing intensity or clarity, this first sign has been present in you for a long time. It's not weakness, it's signaling. And recognizing it is the first step to stop forcing yourself to live a life that doesn't belong to you. Now that you know this, observe. Because the next signs will make even clearer what your soul has already been trying to show you. There is a kind of emptiness that can't be filled with money, success, or praise. A discomfort that arises even when everything seems to be just right. You may have reached goals, built things, even lived happy moments, but deep down you feel something is missing. And the worst part, you can't explain what it is. That silent restlessness is one of the strongest signs among the chosen. It doesn't fade over time, it grows stronger. Because it doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the soul. This sign is deceptive. It can look like anxiety, boredom, or even chronic dissatisfaction. But it's not that. It's an internal calling. A silent voice telling you that what you're living today still isn't everything. That there is something greater, more true, more aligned with who you really are, even if you don't yet know what that means. It's as if you were in a temporary place, waiting for the real reason for your existence to be revealed. And that feeling can last for years. Many people try to silence this sign by diving into distractions. They change jobs, cities, relationships. They pursue courses, make plans, launch new projects. And for a while, the restlessness seems to vanish. But it always returns. Because no matter what you build on the outside, the calling is on the inside. And it won't go away until you stop ignoring it. That constant discomfort isn't a flaw, it's a warning. The chosen ones can't stabilize in an ordinary life because their mission is anything but ordinary. In many religious texts, this emptiness is described as a space prepared for the higher calling. It's the absence that creates room for revelation. The discomfort is intentional. It forces you to move, to question, to seek meaning where no one else looks. And as hard as it may be to live with that constant sense of incompleteness, it's a disguised privilege. Because only those being prepared for something greater feel this way. Those made to follow the common flow of life rarely question anything at all. If you feel like you're always waiting for something, even without knowing what that's the sign. If you've had phases where everything seemed to fall into place, yet a voice still told you, this isn't it, That's the sign. If your soul feels silently restless, never fully at peace, never firmly rooted, that's the sign. And the more you try to ignore it, the louder it becomes. Because you weren't made to stay, you were made to awaken. This is the second marker. And if it describes you precisely, now you understand why so many things were never enough. It's not that the world disappointed you. It's that what you're searching for isn't in this world. And that is the clearest sign that your journey isn't common. It was set apart. Not everything you feel has a logical explanation. Sometimes you walk into a place and something tightens inside you. Other times, just being near someone makes you feel the weight they carry, even if they're smiling. In certain moments you wake up already tired, even after sleeping for hours. And in other phases, you sleep too much and still feel unrested. That energetic exhaustion, even without any real physical effort, is one of the most common signs among the chosen. The body is there, but the soul feels like it's somewhere else, processing things you can't even understand. The chosen one, before knowing who they are, carries an open spiritual antenna. They pick up frequencies, emotions, intentions. They feel what isn't said. They see what's hidden between the lines. And when that isn't yet understood, it becomes a burden. The body absorbs the energy of environments. The mind tries to process what it doesn't understand. And the soul becomes overwhelmed. Many confuse this with anxiety, burnout, or just emotional sensitivity. But when that sensitivity manifests through patterns of extreme fatigue, irregular sleep, nightmares, or vivid dreams with symbolic messages, it's a sign that something greater is happening. This sign usually appears silently and gradually. First, as small discomforts, places that exhaust you, people who drain you, situations that wear you out for no clear reason. Then come the recurring dreams, the internal warnings, the synchronicities. And over time, what once seemed like intuition becomes real perception. You know when something is wrong before there's any proof. You feel when you need to leave, when you should stay, when someone is lying, when something is approaching. It's an awareness that comes before facts, and that is not common. In many spiritual traditions, this is called inner vision. The gift of discernment, prophetic sensitivity, or heightened intuition. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that for the chosen ones, this sensitivity is not optional. It's part of the mission. It's through this that you begin to recognize what needs to be healed, changed, or avoided. And because of this, you're often misunderstood. While others see what's obvious, you feel what's invisible. If you've ever avoided something without knowing why and later realized you were right, if you sense when the energy in a room shifts, when someone looks at you differently, when the atmosphere becomes heavy, if your sleep is light, disturbed, or filled with messages, you can't forget this sign is active in you. And the more you deny this sensitivity, the more overwhelmed you'll feel. Because it wasn't placed there by accident. It's part of the spiritual preparation for something only you will be able to fulfill. This is the third sign. Strong, silent, real. If you saw yourself in it, understand this. What many people call too much in you might be exactly what makes you necessary. The world doesn't need more ordinary people. It needs those who see what no one else wants to see. There are moments when everything seems to spiral out of control. Relationships end unexpectedly. Opportunities close off. People drift away. Structures that once seemed solid simply collapse. From the outside, it looks like bad luck. From the inside, it feels like punishment. But when you begin to connect the dots, you realize it wasn't a downfall, it was removal. Life was clearing away everything that no longer belonged to the path of who you truly are. And as painful as it may have been, this is also a clear sign that you were set apart for something greater. This is one of the hardest signs to accept, because contrary to what many believe, a spiritual calling rarely begins with blessings. It begins with breakdowns. Everything that was built on old versions of yourself needs to fall apart so your true purpose can emerge. And that hurts. It hurts to watch friendships fade, plans fail, the ground vanish beneath your feet. But it hurts even more to try to hold on to all of that when deep down you already know it doesn't belong to you anymore. The chosen ones often go through a phase of deep cleansing. Nothing stays the same. The soul begins to stir, and everything that is out of alignment starts to fall apart. The problem is, without understanding the process, many go into panic. They try to rebuild the old. They force things to stay. They beg for stability. But the spiritual path doesn't move through comfort, it moves through truth. And when the calling arrives, there's no more room to hold on to what no longer supports the mission. This instability is more than a phase, it's an invisible ritual of transition. Various sacred texts and spiritual accounts show that before stepping into purpose, the chosen must cross the desert, go without answers, get lost. Only then do they empty themselves of ego, illusion, and image. Only then do they hear what truly matters. And that's why, when everything starts going wrong all at once, maybe what's happening isn't an ending, but a birth. If you've lived through this, a phase where nothing fit anymore, where you lost almost everything and felt completely lost, this is the sign. If today you can look back and realize that collapse made you more awake, more real, more aligned with who you are, then you weren't broken. You were rebuilt. And if that's still happening now, know this. That pain isn't proof that everything is wrong. It's confirmation that the process has begun. This is the fourth sign. The rupture before the mission. The collapse before the clarity. And no matter how chaotic it seems, those who go through it never return to who they were. Because those who survive the dismantling of their own life are reborn ready for what can no longer be postponed. This is one of the most curious signs and also one of the hardest to explain rationally. It doesn't matter your age, your health history, your lifestyle. At some point, those who carry a deep calling will feel the body respond in strange ways, especially in the legs. It might be sudden weakness, an unexplained heaviness, tingling, vague pain, or simply the feeling that something is physically preventing you from moving forward, even when your mind is ready. The strangest part is that, in many cases, these symptoms don't have a clear medical explanation. You do tests, try treatments, change your routine, and nothing seems to solve it for good. Some medications work for a while, but then lose their effect. And the sensation comes back silently, uncomfortably, sometimes even frighteningly. That doesn't mean you should ignore your health. But it's important to consider that not every signal the body gives is purely physical. Some are spiritual. In many spiritual traditions, the legs are seen as symbols of the journey. They represent our ability to move forward, to support our own path. When there's a blockage in this part of the body, it may reflect a deep conflict between the path you're on and the path you're meant to follow. The body reacts to the detour. And, for chosen ones, who carry specific missions, this kind of energetic conflict tends to manifest sooner or later. This sign can appear in youth, in adulthood, or even after decades of stability, and it almost always shows up during moments of transition, doubt, or spiritual resistance. When you insist on staying in environments, relationships, or routines that are no longer aligned with your purpose, the body starts to give warnings, first with discomfort, then with limitations. And when you ignore it, it stops. locks up, becomes unstable. It forces you to look at what you're trying to avoid. It's not a coincidence, and it's not just biological. There are thousands of reports from people around the world who've experienced this same pattern. Sensations of partial paralysis, legs giving out for apparent reason, sudden weakness that can't be explained. When they sought answers only on the physical level, they found temporary fixes. But when they understood the spiritual root of what was happening, the process began to change. Because the body only aligns when the soul accepts the calling. This is the fifth and final sign. If at any point in your life you felt this, and conventional treatments didn't bring lasting solutions, consider the possibility that what you're facing isn't an illness, but a sign. Maybe your body isn't malfunctioning. Maybe it's just trying to stop you from continuing down the wrong path. And in that case, healing doesn't start with medicine, it starts with the decision to become who you truly are. If throughout this video you identified with 2 or more of the signs we shared, then it's time to stop ignoring yourself. Nothing you went through was by accident. Nothing you felt was an overreaction. Nothing that fell apart in your life was a meaningless loss. It was all preparation, and once the signs become conscious, the responsibility begins too. Because now you know, or at least you suspect that your story is different, and continuing to live like it isn't, is no longer an option. The first step isn't to run outward, it's to return inward. The chosen don't find their mission in books, courses, or ready-made formulas. They discover it by listening to what they ignored for years, their own silence. There is a voice inside you that's been drowned out by the noise of the world. It's there, waiting, and it only comes through when you stop, when you slow down, when you create space to truly listen to yourself. That voice doesn't, it whispers. And for that, the world must be silent so you can hear it. There's no manual for the chosen, because each one carries a different mission, a different sensitivity, a different kind of pain. But there are universal directions. Align your life with what is real. Cut the excess. Leave where your soul no longer vibrates. And most importantly, stop fighting against what is already yours. The greatest mistake of the chosen is resisting what is calling. But the calling, when ignored, doesn't go away, it tightens. It pushes. It blocks. Maybe you don't yet know what your purpose is. And that's okay. No one discovers it overnight. But now that you recognize the signs, you can do what most people don't. Walk with awareness. Look at your choices more truthfully. Reevaluate where your energy is going. And most of all, stop living on autopilot. The life that awaits you won't fit into the common mold. It must be built from the inside out. And that starts with small daily adjustments. You'll also need to protect your energy. Spiritually open people, like the chosen, absorb everything. That need to shield yourself. Create rituals, seek silence, cut toxic connections, slow down. Sometimes it'll feel like loneliness, but it's not. It's strategic retreat. It's like the silence before the storm, or the seclusion before the revelation. Those who've been set apart need periods of solitude to receive what cannot be delivered in the midst of noise. Now that you know, you can't go back. And even if you try to pretend, nothing has changed. Something inside you has already recognized everything that's been said here. The signs don't disappear once you see them clearly. On the contrary, they become even clearer. And that is a blessing, because if you've made it this far, with this level of awareness, then you're not lost. You're awakening. Ignoring the signs doesn't make them stop. It only makes them louder. The spiritual life has its own intelligence. When you don't answer the calling, it doesn't give up on you, but it also doesn't leave you in peace. The repetitions increase, the blockages intensify, the common opportunities start to close. Everything that once worked stops working. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're refusing to do what needs to be done. When a chosen one resists their own path, they go to war with their own existence. The soul feels stuck where it should be moving. The body reacts, the energy locks, and the fatigue turns into deep discouragement. Nothing external satisfies, because the emptiness now comes from being disconnected from the life you were meant to live. That disconnection over time can create serious emotional, physical, and spiritual symptoms. Suffering becomes the only path to try to wake up someone who insists on sleeping with their eyes open. It's not punishment, it's alignment. It's life trying to save you from living an entire existence outside your purpose. And the sooner you recognize this, the lighter the process becomes. The signs are warnings. And like all warnings, they have limits. There comes a point when the soul stops whispering and starts screaming. And if you've made it this far, maybe it's because the whispers are no longer enough. If you've made it this far, it wasn't by accident. Something brought you here, held you here, and kept you listening until the end. And if everything that was said echoed within you, then maybe this is the turning point. The moment when the signs stop seeming like curiosities and start being recognized for what they truly are. Invitations to a life of purpose. Because now you know too much to keep treating yourself like you're ordinary. And as uncomfortable as that may be, there's no going back. Many ignore the calling. And they pay the price. The emptiness grows. The repetitions increase. The soul hardens. And over time, the person forgets they were once touched by something greater. But you still feel it. And if you feel it, there is still a path. The life of someone who has been spiritually set apart will not be simple, but it will be real. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will demand much. But it will be worth every part of the process. Because nothing compares to the peace of knowing that, even without absolute certainty, you are exactly where you're meant to be. The awakening of a chosen one doesn't happen in a single day. It's a sequence of conscious decisions, small departures from the ordinary, necessary endings, difficult truths, and it all begins with one simple gesture: acceptance. Accepting the calling, even without knowing where it will lead. Accepting the mission, even without understanding the entire journey. Accepting that you carry something that wasn't given to just anyone, and that, even if the world doesn't recognize it, the unseen already has. If you don't act now, what do you think might happen to your journey? Do you think the signs will go away? That the discomfort will fade? That the universe will stop trying to reach you? The path will keep appearing in front of you, and the more you resist, the more it will demand from you, because no one can run forever from what they were born to live. And if you were chosen, sooner or later, life will place you face to face with what you came here to fulfill. Maybe you still don't know what to do, and that's okay. What matters now isn't having all the answers. It's stopping the habit of running from the questions. The universe doesn't demand speed, it demands presence. And you've already taken a huge step just by being here, aware, awake, touched by something most people still ignore. Now is the moment to look at your life with new eyes, with deeper listening, more silence, and above all, with more courage. Because everything you need to move forward is already inside you. If this message touched you, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who carries that same restlessness in their heart. And write in the comments, I accept who I am and I choose the path that's already mine. That phrase seals the awakening and gives permission for the journey to begin.